Good evening, I'm your host, Daniel Mark Harrison. Tonight on the Zurcast, the Saudi Arabian strikes and how China has financed the bombing of Israel. And we'll also be discussing why that's the case. Why does China hate Israel so much? And we'll be taking some of your questions at the end, and that should be fun. So let's get started.
The death toll continues to rise in the conflict between Israel and Hamas militants.
And China has started conducting a military exercise.
The Saudi-led OIC has been repeatedly condemned for its weak stance on Palestine.
Hi, this is Daniel Mark Harrison. So tonight is the first of our broadcasts, and what will be a nightly broadcast that you can join any single time at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's New York City time, and you can work out the rest of it from there. So tonight I'm going to be discussing mainly the Israeli the strikes on Israel from Saudi Arabia that were financed by China. You're welcome to join at any point during the broadcast. Go to t.me/Zurbank. It'll be on the site same time every night. And we might also deviate from those topics as relevant. I mean, there may be other things that people wish to discuss, and that's perfectly okay. All right. So first, starting with Israel and the Saudi Arabian strikes against them. So let me explain a little bit of a backstory here. Okay, there's always going to be a backstory because I'm the kind of guy who has a lot of knowledge. I speak to a lot of people, I know a lot of people, and I can give you the context, which I'm hoping that will make things clearer. Right. So I've been to Israel. I've been to the United Arab Emirates. I was born in the United Arab Emirates. Some of my best friends are from Israel. Some of my best friends are from the United Arab Emirates. So completely impartial on this one, except for the fact that I don't like people hitting other people. And what basically happened is this: when you had the shutdown of COVID-19, what you had was a situation where suddenly airlines were going to be out of business. Now, the UAE makes a lot of money off aviation. It's a go-to. There was a phrase once: "Fly by Dubai." If you're flying around the world, very often you stop. Now, there have been aviation innovations within the last 20 years, such as the Dreamliner and certain 747s that have meant that planes can go from one part of the world to another. However, that's not to say that they don't still stop in Dubai and that they aren't, that UAE doesn't make a lot of aviation. It does. I've got a very good friend who is a pilot for Tiger, for example. He was offered, and he wasn't even the captain yet. He was offered $270,000 a year to fly for Qatar. So China said to them, these countries, we'll continue to buy oil up. Don't worry about it. We've got enough money to buy oil up. We don't have, and that's why China never priced oil against the Chinese yuan, or never priced gold against the Chinese yuan. You notice that? Usually a country would be more than happy to have, please, can we have the Chinese yuan renminbi priced against gold, oil, or other commodities? No, it doesn't want that. The reason it doesn't want that is because of the fact that it's just not, China wanted to keep control of its own currency so that it could generate enough money internally for years and years and years, which it did. And then they can just keep buying up these assets. That in turn keeps the US dollar strong enough for China to keep exporting into the United States during this extraordinary world crisis where there's years and years and years of total political shutdown, of aviation shutdown. I mean, you must think about it. It's extraordinary. You had, how long? A year, 18 months, nearly 18 months. No one's been able to fly. I mean, with such restrictions, it's not worth it. Isn't that strange? That's strange. So, it's a con. It's a con that the Chinese have sold the world, and they did. And the way they got different countries to do different things was by assaging with their money. What they did with, in terms of Saudi Arabia, was Saudi Arabia would be bankrupt right now. So, as would Norway, they wouldn't be able to take care of their own country without a high oil price. Oil is now $70 a barrel, roughly, give or take, which it was just a few years ago. I mean, that makes no sense. Let's look at the number of aircraft that were flying during the period, say 5 years ago, when it was the same price, and now. Doesn't make sense, economic sense, unless someone's manipulating the market, which China is doing. China has more or less got its upper hand over the world in that very specific sense. China has an anti-Semitic agenda. That's what it has. They hate Jewish people. The reason they hate Jewish people is because they know that some of the brightest people have made the United States, United Kingdom, and other countries some of the most successful in the world, and they have. I mean, these people are industrious to an unbelievable degree. And you have to just go to Israel. I mean, Israel was desert land. It was desert land 50 years ago, whatever it was, when the Israelis went in and were granted that land under legal, doesn't matter what you read here on YouTube or whatever, under legal premise. They were granted that land. And as a result of that, so it was a legal adoption of land. The Israelis have developed it into the most phenomenally productive. I mean, you wouldn't even be using the internet today. You wouldn't. Were it not for the Israelis. In fact, they're some of the biggest cloud innovators there are. They're some of the biggest software innovators. They are unbelievable. You just have to go to Israel to see it. The food is great. It's not mass produced. The technology is incredible. The innovation culture is so strong. So the Chinese are very scared of this, and they don't like it. And so they decided to take a position again. And they decided that the Saudis were easier to buy out because they were just dependent upon a raw material such as oil. It wasn't personal, never is with Chinese, never is. It was just matter of fact. And so the Chinese have a vested interest in taking Israel out. So, thank you so much for joining this conference. I can see that we've got what is it? It's like 550 people or something. It's fantastic. Look, thank you so much for joining this live conference. I have noted your questions in the side, and now we'll do some Q&A. So the first question, but hasn't China contributed to world productivity? Yes, it has. China has contributed to world productivity in an enormous way, and there's no doubting that. But it's done so at what expense? It's done so at the expense of. Let me give you an example. I knew a factory owner who went to China to go and see about putting his factory there, and they took him up to the top of the mountain. They looked over a valley. Said, "I think your factory would be perfect there." And he said, you've got like 10,000 people living here. Oh, they'll be gone by next week. Is that the kind of productivity we want? Is that the kind of life that you want? So that would be my answer if that explains that. Well, it has done, and there's a lot we can learn from the Chinese, but pragmatism, but not that much we can learn, because basically it's just a human rights violation. What have the Saudis got to do with this? That's a good question. The Saudis, like I said, that what they have to do with this is that they sold out to the Chinese. There's another one. So what other option did the Saudis have? That's a very good question. The Saudis had the option to forego this. They had the option to say, wait a minute, we'll just put up with it. We're not going to sell out. No, China, we won't sell out. We will be allies with our American friends. Instead, they went and killed Khashoggi. It was the one guy. What happened is they took out a bunch of American leaders. And the one guy who would have written about it, Khashoggi, the editor, one guy, they went and killed him. That was, he was from a very, very illustrious family. It just wasn't on. I mean, they had that option. You always have an option to choose to do right or wrong. So would you forgive the Chinese and the Arabs if they apologized? That's a very good question. That's a fantastic question. All right. I don't think it's about forgiveness. I think it's about correcting it. I don't think anyone needs to forgive anyone. What they need to do is revert and correct what they did immediately. You need to allow for a free media to take place, for a media to be able to report what is news. So not this COVID-19 myth, not stuff that's not true. Don't do that. You need to report all of these things, and you will have a slow, gradual correction. Now, they may be in the process of thinking about that, but these people are, they've been shown time and time again not to care. How does your wife and family feel about your views? Very good question. These are all great questions, by the way. They're in support. I mean, the Thais are generally anti-communists. The previous Thai king was one of the most devout anti-communists, and he's a hero. He's a hero to the world for killing communists. He's a hero to me and to the world. And I'll take one last one. I'll take a nasty one. Why are you always drunk? I don't think I am drunk. Do I look drunk? I mean, maybe I do look drunk. I think it might be a British thing. I think Brits, we always look a bit drunk, because I think what happens is when we go to lunch with someone, we tend to have a glass of wine, and then about 6 and 7 in the afternoon, we have a couple of glasses of wine. What tends to happen is you drink about 3 to 5 glasses of wine a day. But it gradually happens throughout the day. So maybe we look drunk. That's the only answer I can give you. For me, I'm not drinking at all at the moment, because I'm on a diet thing, because since reaching 40, my wife has been a little bit strict about my weight being, I put on about, I think I'm at 110 kilos or something. So I'm really not sure why I appear drunk, but that might be a case for Brits. Okay, I'll see you again tomorrow night. Thank you so much for joining in. And if you asked a question tonight, I can see many questions here. I tried to ask a question that was summarizing the others, and I will try to do that continuously, because I could see so many questions. I'll do my best to summarize that. And what I'll do is, in the Zurbank chat room, t.me/Zurbag,